It's a terrific initiative to get broadband out beyond the urban areas. So it's a great initiative, and it's, I think it's a powerful statement on behalf of the government to fund $350 million to do that.
Everyone within the telecommunications industry is wondering, well, who's going to get it? And I think the surprise to everyone last year, and was very smart on the part of Vodafone and Telecom getting together.
The Telecom Vodafone one, interesting, they've got the infrastructure and the ability to do it. Politically, it's going to be somewhat of a dicey affair, given that Telecom looks to have won 80% of the urban network, and to win in partnership 100% of the rural is going to create a few issues for Minister Joyce.
We think it's essential that our rural community has a world-class broadband available. We think the government's been a wee bit modest in its target of 5 megabits per second internet to 80% of the population. That may seem good now, but in 2 or 3 years' time, the demand is going to be for 20 or 50 megabits. So we think it's hugely important that the rural community gets a platform that enables it to stay world-class for the years ahead.
We need to pick technology that has a path, that has a future going forward. So there are options for it to be developed and enhanced and moved forward. And also pick standards. There'll be more people manufacturing it, more people making it, so therefore it will naturally develop more.
We've actually backed one of the parties in there. We've backed the Cordia FX solution because technically we believe it's more future-proof.
A balance of modern new fibre that we would put in and 4th generation wireless we think is a very good technology solution which the Ministry of Economic Development couldn't ignore. Now they've got to balance that, of course, with 2 big heavyweights like Telecom and Vodafone saying that, you know, extension of our copper solution in cabinets and 3G solution is better.
Other players and they're going, well, hey, it's not fair, you can't give it to, you know, the incumbent fixed line and the, you know, the leading mobile operator. It's not kind of fair, but the scale of investment required out into those regions does need deep pockets.
What's happened is they created a broadband initiative and said, well, 1, you have to be national, and 2, you have to have a wireless alternative. Well, that sounds good, but if you now give my 2 competitors a subsidy to get out there faster before I get there, that's a bit of a challenge for us.
One of the big issues is that we haven't got many people out there, but they want the same services if they're parked in the middle of the city. And so a little bit of money might help. You know, it's going to help push in the right direction, but it's still not going to save their big issue. So I think some of the things we need to look at new technologies that come along. How can they deliver service more economically into rural areas?
Well, as I understand, if they do win it, it'll be an open access network. So for our particular company, we don't care. It's just plumbing by different means. I think some of these guys are starting to realise the money's actually in the service layer, not the network layer.
It doesn't really matter who wins it as long as it's open access, and then at a retail level, any of the ISPs and carriers can come in and buy that retail service. And that's what's proposed, and that's why it doesn't really matter who has that underlying infrastructure, because you end up choosing who you want to go to as a telco because often word of mouth, i.e. the brand and so on, and that's a combination of the service they offer and the product and you know, the pricing. And so all of that's at the retail level. So if you can buy, you know, network access at open access at the same rate as everyone else, then you're competing on service, you're competing on price, and you're competing on everything that kind of forms the retail company.
One of the worries we have is that if Telecom's doing the UFB and the rural, you know, there's a hell of a lot for them to do there in a very short space of time. Are we really going to get anywhere, or is it going to be another project that we keep delaying and deferring?
Well, FX is pretty much the dark horse in the industry at the moment. You know, privately owned, a hell of a lot of fibre, and just the way things are going this year, regardless of whether they win the rural or not, I think they will be involved at some point. It leads to the other question where this year is going to be the year for mergers and acquisitions, for sure, as people get their head around the access and the service layer in an all-IP world.
New partnerships is going to make a big difference. I mean, for example, Telecom New Zealand and Vodafone putting in a bid for rural broadband. They may not get it, but I certainly think it's a new way of an approach on how to achieve something that individually they couldn't actually do.
If we win it, that'll be exciting, and we'll have plenty to do for the next 3 to 4 years. If we lose it, at least we'll have the certainty of knowing what we've got to work with, and we can then go talk to the winners and see if we can collaborate in some way with them to extend our network to rural New Zealand. We can go talk to the regional lines companies. We can at least go forward knowing what's in front of us. At the moment, we're all wrestling with an unknown.
And I think that's where like the Rural Broadband Initiative or even ultra-fast broadband that the government's trying to push, they're trying to push a standard. They're still working through that standard. But once they come up with that standard, if everyone adopts it, you've got scales of economy, you've got everyone familiar with the technology, and it has a development path. But we should pick the standard baseline that everyone's following.